Here's Audible looming up on the outside, and Catholic Boy tries to rally. Hofberg in the center of the course has good-looking momentum for Jose Ortiz. With less than a quarter of a mile to go, they're at the top of the stretch. Audible let loose on the outside to take the lead from Mississippi, who's back to second. Hofberg straightens up and tries to finish up. With less than an eighth of a mile to go, it's the Holy Bull winner, Audible, who's clear. Audible by 3. Hofberg can't get him. Mississippi is third. 5 Florida Derbies for Todd Pletcher. Audible, no doubt about it. He won it by 2.5. Second was Hofberg. Third was...
And there you go, the 5th career Florida Derby win for Todd Pletcher and Hall of Famer John Velasquez as well. Pete Aiello, a terrific call, capping the action on a unforgettable 67th edition of the Florida Derby. The show goes on here at Gulfstream Park as we flip the page. April 1st, little Easter Sunday. Acacia Courtney, Jason Blewett alongside, and what a day it was.
It really was a spectacular day of racing. The place was packed as well. So thank you to all of you that came out on Florida Derby Day, or if you were watching and betting from home or watching on NBC Sports Network. We really do appreciate all of your support throughout the meet, and we wrap up the Gulfstream Park meet on this Easter Sunday. And of course, happy Easter to those of you that celebrate.
99 buyer for Audible, who did get a great setup once again yesterday. It was a really fast pace. I think many of us were a little surprised at just how quickly and how fast Strike Power and Promises Fulfilled hooked up from the starting gate. Catholic Boy a little flat, didn't run his race. Obviously, he's a better horse than what he showed yesterday, and Audible will go to Kentucky Derby as one of the favorites for the run for the Roses, you would think, off that win in the Florida Derby, and a good effort by Hofberg in just his 3rd lifetime start.
Pretty incredible. A recent maiden winner here at Gulfstream, and Bill Mott puts him right into Grade 1 company, and he ran a huge 2nd place finish that day versus a much more seasoned and now accomplished horse for sure. But it really was a great rendition and a great way to cap off the big day of racing.
3-year-old fillies, meanwhile, ran in the co-feature yesterday. 2 races before the big one. That was the Gulfstream Park Oaks, 57th running, and out in the middle of the racetrack, we do have Coach Rocks highlighted as Louis Saez gets busy on hers. She appeared for a second or so to idle off the far turn, off the bend, but once she got going again, she easily reeled in Take Charge Paula.
She did, and Take Charge Paula stretching out to 2 turns for the first time. I thought a very good effort from her for Kieran McLaughlin, but Coach Rocks was really impressive, facing winners for the first time after that maiden victory, and I don't think there was quite an excited winner circle as it was for Coach Rocks. Of course, several partners in attendance, Roddy Valenti, Rick Pitino as well. And speaking to Dale Romans afterwards, he said they have big Kentucky Oaks dreams with her. And maybe even Black-Eyed Susan, he said, too.
Absolutely. Well, Dale's not afraid to run them, and run them often when they're doing well. And that's one of the real attributes we love about trainer Dale Romans and his team. And this has been a 3-year-old filly division really crying out for a leader, and perhaps we saw the coming out party per se yesterday with Coach Rocks. It was pretty good with a far less than perfect trip in the 57th rendition of the Gulfstream Park Oaks. So alas, the big stakes are in the books for another year. This has been a fantastic championship season. We do have a dozen races though remaining on this April Fool's Day on the 1st day of April. Let's not forget that, and a mandatory payout. This isn't a joke though. This is legit, and we want you to make a nice score here as we cap the 2017-2018 championship meet.
We did have the mandatory payout yesterday in that Rainbow Six pool. We eclipsed all of those records. There was more than $16.5 million in new money bet into the pick 6, but we've got another mandatory payout today. Everything, the Super High 5, pick 6, pick 5, it all must go to close out the meet.
And a big thank you to the horses who put on each and every day, each and every meet, each and every year. They put on the greatest show of all. Also want to thank, on behalf of all of us here at Gulfstream Park and the Stronach Group, thank you to our great fans who have supported the Gulfstream Park brand and the Signal throughout the winter meet. It's a lot of fun, a lot of racing. It does go by pretty quick, and because of you, we handled about 4 just under $50 million yesterday at $49.9 million. If I had just bet a little more, we could have hit that $50
Come on,
million
Jason,
spot.
you could have put that extra.
What a cheapskate, I'll tell you. But we'll try to get lucky today with the mandatory rundowns, and we'll get started. In fact, we've got a dozen races. We start a little afternoon. I know you've got a little early pick 5 brewing.
I do. We'll show you my early pick 5 ticket. It does start in race number 1, and I am going to use 2 horses to kick things off in here. This is also the first race where we do see that super high 5 wager offered. So using Bright Venezuelan and Jubilant, I think probably just the logical 2 in there. In race number 2, I'm going to go 3 deep. I wonder if today is the day for Starship Hostility. Kind of been knocking on the door. She ran a big race last time out. In the third race this afternoon, going with 2 horses, Visions of You and Asked and Answered. I might be a little light in that race. That looks like an anything can happen type of affair.
Yep.
In race number 4, we've got some really strong last out maiden winners. King Humor with that 96 Buyer speed figure. And I even think Show Me the Bucks has a lot of quality for trainer Bill Mott. And in the 5th race, Blake's Lucky Star, speaking of Dale Romans, on the drop should be tough, but I'm going to include Disruptor, who just kind of has a look to him, getting back on the dirt for Christophe Clement, and going to go $24.
Sounds pretty good, and let's talk about that opening race today in the opening leg of the early Sunday pick 5. These are 3-year-old filly $20,000 maiden claimers on the turf at 5 furlongs. And by the way, rest assured, another glorious day here in the weather department in Hallandale Beach. Fitting for an Easter Sunday as well, and certainly an Easter with thoroughbred racing at GP. We are indeed fast and firm. And to start things out, we're both going to take, on a bright day, Bright Venezuelan from the inside post. We'll see how this one does, as her 2 recent races going 5 on the grass, been pretty good.
I think so, too. And I know you and I were a big fan of Bird of Peace, who beat her last time, and she was only beaten by half a length, this filly. She's keeping Tyler Gaffleone, who seems to handle her well. I used the 3 Jubilant in my exacta. This is a filly she's had a lot of chances for sure, but she's always run okay, so I thought she could pick up a piece in here.
Sounds good. Let's move on to the second race number 2. We hit the main track. We'll go a mile, 62.50. Older filly mare claimers are ready to rumble in the opening leg of Sunday's early pick 4. 7 set to go to the post, and as I looked around the number 4 Starship Hostility, it's Erad riding again, and to be honest, I think anything in the ballpark of her last race and effort back on March 4th, the day after the Fountain of Youth, it's probably good enough to just get it done here.
I think so too, and I remember liking her 2 starts back because she was dropping back down to the 62.50 level. She didn't run a step, and then last time out getting Erad Ortiz, she really seemed to put things all together again, so I like that he stays aboard.
Yeah, Erad will ride. Edgar Perez, in the meantime, will have the call on the 3 Indian Chaser, who, if you want the speed, and it did appear turf, speed, very, very dangerous, very good yesterday. Main track was way more even per se, where horses, obviously, even looking at the GP Oaks and the Florida Derby, horses were able to make those extended runs while wide and far off the pace. But if you do want the speed, it is likely the 3 Indian Chaser.
Yes, absolutely, and I think that that's really going to be the key. Beauty of a day, a bit of an inconsistent filly, but her last one looked like she was taking that good step in the right direction.
Maybe she's just rounding back into form. We'll see how she does against our top pick with Erad in race number 2. As we move on to Sunday's 3rd, this April 1st program continues with the switch back to the turf with this 5 furlong, $20,000 maiden claiming race for 3-year-olds and up. And sure enough, you and I in agreement here to finish off the opening pick 3 on this closing day of the meet. There aren't a whole heck of a lot of, I think, realistic inform options in this race per se. Going, what won me over, going 5/8 on the turf, where I was just a little more confident we get a comparable effort with the 7 Asked and Answered at today's distance, as opposed to the 5 Family Justice, who's been running despite losing against some pretty good maiden claimers, but he's not been a 5/8 horse.
No, he's never gone this short before on the turf, so we really just don't know what we're going to get from Family Justice, and we say this all the time, that it really is kind of a specialist distance on the turf here. So Asked and Answered, he is the really tried and true turf sprinter of the field, and he does have that early speed. Last time out, I thought it was a solid race race from him. And trainer Ralph Nixon, nice win yesterday that upset a lot of people in the first leg of the Rainbow Six with Outback Bob.
Outback Bob, yeah,
Up
who got a
the
great
rail.
ride.
Yeah.
Oh, Jose Ortiz was just terrific with that ride. And I think Jose finished up 4 wins or 3 wins yesterday. He had a great day.
He had a great day, whatever it was.
And Erad won a couple of races as well. In fact, he's the only other rider here in the Colony to hit that 100 win mark.
Yep.
He sits at 101 coming into this Sunday card, and just the 4th rider in history accomplished that late Friday afternoon to win at least 100 races this meet at Gulfstream Park.
Pretty incredible, and he even came down to the meet later than a lot of the other jockeys, so he's just had a fantastic meet and certainly has had some really live mounts. And while we're on the subject of jockeys, Luis Saez eclipsing the record for most wins in the championship meet with 133.
Yep, now he's got a $135 after getting his last win yesterday in the Gulfstream Park Oaks, and I should say the Pan Am for Todd Pletcher, right off the engine and up on the engine, that is, with High Happy, as Todd Pletcher finished up a 4-win afternoon. The real icing on the cake for him. An otherworldly meet here at Gulfstream Park for a barn, by the way, who will see some action a bit later in the card and who has won 15 consecutive championship meet training titles. It's just unbelievable. This is the race of the day. As we flip the page, we get on to Sunday's 4th. 3-year-old high-priced, other than allowance optional claimer on the dirt going 3/4, and judging and looking at that short comment you use for the early pick 5, you do have a couple of impressive last out maiden winners, and in the case of the 3 King Humor and even the 4 Show Me the Bucks, it was their respective career debuts. King Humor ran unbelievably well, and it looked like, as we backtrack to that race on February 2nd, that this effort might just come up a fast race, a winning time going 5.5 furlongs in 1 minute and 3 seconds, and he was really, really good in this race over, and he was flattered in subsequent weeks when Bell Tapisserie gave such a good account of himself, as he's second best behind King Humor.
Very much second best in this race as well, and King Humor actually 1-2 on the morning line, which is amazing, and we'll see what we get from him. There does look to be some other speed, so we'll see if he shows another dimension second time out.
Now, sometimes those races going 5.5 or 6.5 in terms of speed figures can come up maybe a little fast, maybe efforts, something I learned from Andy Serling up in the Big Apple. At times, they can be a bit of a tough predictor going forward. So I think today going 6, a classic distance here at Gulfstream Park, we'll learn certainly more about where King Humor stands. He certainly appears, though, off that first race as a very exciting sprinting prospect for trainer Victor Barboza Jr. The 4 Show Me the Bucks, meanwhile, was very seasoned. He did not have smooth sailing in his first start, pulling off an upset at nearly 17-1.
He did. He was one of those Belmont first-time starters that we saw a few of throughout this championship meet that normally you say, well, Belmont's more of a patient approach. You don't see him win first out. And we saw some really nice firsters for the Mott Barn over the past couple of months. And here is a stat with winners last time out making their second career start for Belmont. Great numbers. So he's able to, when they win first out, keep them in good form. So slightly an even ROI of $1.98. But what I like, and you have even brought up the distance already, this horse debuted at 6.5 furlongs. He came from off of the pace with a long drive, not an easy trip where he just ran away from the rest of the field. And I've been really impressed just in general. I like the Tis Wonderful progeny, so I'm going to go with the Mott train today.
Big fan of Tis Wonderful myself, and kind of cool, this horse bred in Alberta, Canada. They might have a good horse to root for down the line here. We'll learn a little more about King Humor and Show Me the Bucks, the highlights on today's card. Race number 5, though, in the meantime, is another dirt sprint here at GP over the fast main track. An older $12,500 claiming race that sees you and I with the cold 10-8 exacta. And most of the, I think, realistic firepower is towards the outside. And it's a case of 2 very well-connected drop downs in the 10 Blake's Lucky Star for Dale, and Christophe Command has the 8 Disruptor, as both those horses plummet in for 12-5.
And the drop downs and the good barns is just where I went, and I saw that you did as well. And Blake's Lucky Star, the last couple of starts for him have been interesting to say the least. He has had a couple of interesting breaks where he's kind of ducked in at the start. So it looks like the way that he's been running lately that the drop is warranted, and we've seen Dale take some aggressive drops and be productive with it. So I'm not really as concerned about that. And Disruptor just looks like they've been looking for a spot or just a magic number of equipment changes or surface switches that are going to work for him.
All right, Luis Saez, blinkers on, the 12-5. All that magic and playing around might equal a maiden diploma in today's 5th race. As we flip the page and we continue to move ahead, race number 6 this afternoon. These are older filly and mare allowance optional claiming types on the turf. They will go a 2-turn mile. And there's a few informed horses. A pretty good race, actually, between Aquemini, who's making her second start off a layoff. Lantis has done some pretty good things and held her form in some tough spots for trainer Michelle Nihei. And then we have Jane Sibeli and Tyler Gaffleone, who teamed up for a nice victory a few weeks ago with the number 6 OKK. In fact, as I look down at the date, and we'll show you the race back on February 14th, I feel as though this race, in a way, was run just a couple of weeks ago. February 14th, just under 6 weeks ago, is this filly by English Channel. Boy, did she get a good ride. Sitting the pocket, angling out. Oh, split horses there off the far turn, and just a very, very cheeky ride from Gaffleone, and a real coming out party. I think, to be fair, this filly has just improved steadily over the winter at Gulfstream Park, and in my eyes, that is going to make her tough as she tries tougher horses.
I think so, too, and she is taking a bit of a step up today, but just given the way that she ran and even starter allowance company before that, she probably needed a race to get her confidence back up, and it was a great ride that day. And I did find a stat on the barn over the past 5 years with winners last time out on the turf at Gulfstream. 28% win and 63% in the money, and a really good ROI of more than $3. So I'm thinking that Jane Sibeli is going to be able to keep this filly in good form now that she's got her right where she wants her to be.
Yeah, this is a long-standing face here in barn in South Florida, long-standing with excellence in winning. Jane Sibeli does an excellent job, and we'll learn a little more about OKK, and we'll certainly learn who Acacia likes in this mandatory April Fool's Easter Sunday Rainbow Six. It's also closing day. A lot going on as we take a little time out.
At ExpressBet, we celebrate the champions that make horse racing great. That's why we provide more ways to bet from more places than ever. We've built an entire family of brands to give players more of the rewards they deserve, give bettors the information they need to win, and provide a community for horse bettors. Because the best way to support the champions of horse racing is to champion horse racing. ExpressBet, we are racing.
Pennsylvania, proud of our growing breeding and racing industry. Tens of thousands of jobs with a massive economic impact. Now, North America's most lucrative awards program will pay a 50% breeder award for PA-sired, PA-bred maidens who run first, second, or third, with 25% for non-PA-sired PA-breds. Plus, up to 40% in owner bonuses, 400-plus restricted races, and our program has paid out $30 million for the 6th straight year. Breeding and racing in Pennsylvania. It's a winner.
Just like those horses from the gate, we are off and running on this Easter Sunday here at Gulfstream. Weather's perfect. We are indeed fast and firm. And a hearty welcome back to the second edition of this live Gulfstream today with Acacia and Jason. Rainbow Six, mandatory payout. We achieved and eclipsed the old record on January 28th, or from January 28th here yesterday, with about 21 million plus in the Florida Derby Rainbow. So what are you doing today?
All right, well, it's all got to go today. We're starting afresh. There's no carryover to begin with, but you don't have to worry about trying to get that single unique ticket. You don't have to worry about any sort of trying to keep it more budget-minded, because it's all got to go. So you might as well hit it. That's what you have to worry about today. I considered singling in the first leg with 40 fathoms, dropping in class for Safi Joseph Jr., but I ended up including Sub Factum. Jose Garofalo's horses have been running well lately, and I think that this one might be a good price and has some ability. In race 8, I'm going to go 2 deep as well. I used Raise the Bar and Bowtie Affair, who will probably be a short price, and because I stepped it up a little bit for 51.20 today, I spread in races 9 and 10. Very good races on the card. The 9th race is really solid for the fillies on the turf, and 10th 10th race is a really good maiden race, and I use the inside 4. I'm thinking that they all could really take a step forward. In race number 11, Bold Daddy, maybe that's who you end up singling. He's been so good lately for trainer Todd Pletcher. I used Flashy Chelsea, who really took a big step forward last time getting back to the winner's circle. And then we wrap things up. The outside horses really look the most intriguing to me, and you've got Mora's Forever coming in off the also eligible list, and I thought that could be a bit of a sneaky.
Yeah, she might run well in that race, outside post or not.
Yep.
She fits in race number 12, and do note, she is indeed sandwiched between 2 fillies that were on the AE list that are scratched, but she is definitely running in the nightcap today. Race number 7, though, the starting point is we are on the dirt with these 3-year-old $12,500 maiden claimers. And in the case of the 140 Fathoms, I'm not surprised to see you pick this Son of Poseidon's Warrior 2. It's just in a race like this, it's the second out, it's the drop. He's got a lot of at least positive angles in his favor.
He does, in a really good barn with Safi Joseph Jr. There was an next out winner from that race, so I think that there's a logical step forward move for that one. You'll have some speed from the inside, certainly from Seminole Charlie, and City Edition I think is best showing speed.
Let's move on to the opening leg of the mandatory payout, late pick 5. No carryover into Thursday as we get on to this 3 and up 16K maiden claimer on the turf at 7.5 furlongs. I went in for the pick 5 purposes. I think I spent $27 today, and indeed I did. I used 3 horses to get the sequence underway. I like Raise the Bar. The Bull, who ran off last time out, he looked like an interesting potential price play who's got some speed, which I like, and Majev certainly makes a lot of sense. Wound up singling. I almost used, I didn't want to go for 54 bucks, Acacia. Nikki's Cause, if I was using another, she's the other I'd want in the 9th. Ultimately off her last and her last couple. I think Marvelous Kitten might just have a little bit of a class and talent edge. It isn't big, but I think it exists. Moving on to race number 10, there's an excellent looking maiden race. You said it all. Todd's got 2 in there. Got Jimmy Jerkins cutting back Orbed, and I'll use the 2 Pletchers as well as Orbed, who is by Orb, as that one cuts back in distance. 11th race, I went more towards the outside. Love and have become a fan of the 9-year-old Lay That Pistol Down, who's been terrific here of late, and What Power has been very good as well for trainer Marcus Vitale. And we wrap it up in race number 12. The curtain comes down on the championship meet with a 3-horse spread. And don't sleep on the 6 Patriot Storm. This race could be crying out for a weirdo, long shot type horse. And off the layoff, first time out, off a trainer change to Mary Epler. I think that horse may have an upset chance, certainly to make some noise at a big price in race number 12 today. But again, race number 8 kicks off the late 5, and I like an inside horse in here in the 1 Raise the Bar. I've just running at or near 16K. He's just a very logical, snug-looking fit.
He does look to be very logical, and that should actually be 3-1-4-9 for me. Maybe I typed it in wrong after a long day, but did not use the 8 as my top pick. But Raise the Bar is the second choice for me as well. I think he's very logical, just second off the claim. He should have the ability to take a step forward, but I ended up using the 3 Bowtie Affair as my top pick because I found this stat on trainer Angel Rodriguez with first after the claim reaching out for jockey Luis Saez. He's 5 for 12, 42% win, and 83% of the time in the money. So that's 10 out of 12 that have hit the board when he does reach out for this jockey over the past 5 years. So I thought that that was just kind of a really interesting angle with a horse that maybe it has been a while since he's won, but I think that with the change of scenery, he's got some ability, we know.
Yeah, no doubt. Change of scenery, sometimes a good thing for these older horses, and Angel Rodriguez definitely does an excellent job. And it's no news flash by any stretch, but I think the stock of Luis Saez just has continued to climb over these last 4 months in South Florida. I'm curious to see once he shifts his tack to Keeneland for the spring meet and then back to his spring and summer base in New York. Does seem like he's made some inroads and some pretty top barns going forward, mainly Todd Pletcher. It should be fun to watch the remainder of his 2018 campaign. As we move on to race number 9, we're on the turf. These are 3-year-old fillies with this $25,000 starter optional claimer. And I like the 2 inside horses, Nikki's Cause and Marvelous Kitten. They're likely to be the two betting favorites in here, and for good reason. They both run very well recently over the Gulfstream Park turf, and I do like the speed that the two Marvelous Kitten has, and she's been a good claim as we backtrack to her last race. A quick turnaround, not really something we see Armando de la Cerda do all that often, but this is Marvelous Kitten in the green and black of Midwest Thoroughbreds, highlighted between horses just a week and a half ago. Very tough beat behind the Dale Romans' well-meant Proud O'Patty.
It definitely was a tough beat. It was her first time with blinkers as well, and Proud O'Patty, surprise, surprise, is the gray coming after her just here. But this Kitten's Joy filly, tough to claim off of Mike Maker, but I think Armando de la Cerda has done an excellent job with her in placing her well. She ran second in the Mrs. Presidentris last 2 starts back, and I agree, she might have just a little bit of an edge. I used a long shot in second. I think the number 8, Karenina, is going to be overlooked in the wagering, given everything else that's running in this field. And if you look at her last race, she was 3rd behind Ferdinanda, who just missed yesterday for Barclay Tag. She ran huge behind Figuerella's Queen. So I think that she's coming out of good races, and we are fans of Froham Crichton.
We definitely are. He nearly had a big upsetter midway through the card. That Oscar Gonzalez horse just cut her down there in deep stretch. On to race number 10, we're on the main going a mile. This race, along with the King Humor Show Me the Bucks matchup, they're my favorite too.
Yes, me too.
On this Easter Sunday at Gulfstream Park. So good-looking 3-and-up maiden special weight. That even though we're removed from the Florida Derby card, this is a race that fits the weekend to a T. It's just chock full of well-connected, well-pedigreed, and expensive horses, including 2 from trainer Todd Pletcher in Fitz Willie, who's on the rail by Uncle Mo, who cost a lot of money, and the number 3 Slot, who's burned some money, racking up one loss after another.
And Slot is 8-5 on the morning line, and he's run well in every single one of his starts. It's just that he's run 5 times, and he's had 4 seconds and a third. So he's hit the board. He's got to take that next step forward. Blinkers do come off, and he is a first-time gelding. So we'll see if also the turn back to 1 turn, he's getting a lot of changes today. We'll see if all of that helps him to wake up. And he did run well last time with a far outside post.
Not a true indicator of locomotions last start, and just getting back to the basics around 1 turn off a bit of a freshening, looked like he would run well in this race for trainer Bill Mott, but he's going to need to because it's that tough a field.
He is going to need to take a step forward, but I was thinking I might get a good price with him. He was really jostled around last time at the start. Watching the head-on of that break again, he had his momentum totally cut off, and for a young, more inexperienced horse too, that can really be unsettling at the start of the race, and he never really got back into it after that. But I think if looking at his 1-turn race back in December where he ran 3rd behind Navistar and he takes charge, if he runs like that, he could be in contention.
And Orb's back to 1 turn as well, and he comes out of and exits the same race as Slot. Slot obviously had the slightly tougher post out there to dry in post 13 to 13, but Orb was done no favors from post number 10, and he just pulled an impossible wide trip here at Gulfstream Park. Switches to Jose Ortiz. Looks like he is just cranking out one spirited move after another. A little north of us up at Palm Meadows, our training satellite facility in Boynton Beach, and I think 1 turn, little Jimmy J layoff, Orb is going to come back running strong.
I like it, and Jose seemed to handle this horse really well when he rode him 2 starts back. That race beaten just by a slim margin behind Cove Blue was very, very good.
And Fitzwillie is the 2nd foal out of a dam who was a 4-time dirt winner. She's an 11-year-old, the half-sister, however, because this is just the 2nd foal. I'm sure you noticed, too. Can't really run all that well over 2.
No, not quite yet, but this is by your man, Uncle Mo.
My man, Uncle Mo, for one of my guys, and Todd Pletcher, as he enters the card, by the way, with 67 wins here at the meet. Race number 11, and in fact, speaking of Todd, he's got the much-improved Bold Daddy in the final late double of the championship season. This will be the 2nd-to-last race, and certainly the 2nd-to-last turf race on the card at a Iona 16th. And this is another deep competitive allowance race where trip is going to matter. And if I could
Bold Daddy.
You know what? The way the turf has been playing, if I could go back, I probably would put him 3rd or 4th. He is taking a pretty significant jump up in class. These are good, seasoned, battle-hardened horses, but there's no denying that he has found his groove.
And I think he's going to be the controlling speed. That was the main reason using him, and you mentioned this, even just the way the turf has been going. Got the inside post with John Velasquez. If he gets comfortable on the front end, I think that's going to make it tougher for everybody else. But he is giving up experience.
He is, as you have a 57-time veteran or 57 race veteran on the other side of the coin, and Lay That Pistol Down as we check out his race, winning on the Fountain of Youth undercard. In fact, race number 9 on that Saturday, March 3rd. Likes it here at Gulfstream. Jorge Navarro, the trainer, is near the top of the list with outfits that just seem to do amazing work with these older veterans who've got a lot of races under their belt, maybe some issues, and certainly a lot of miles on their bodies and their bones. And Jorge just keeps these horses sound and happy. And although he's stepping up in class, I can't deny the form that he's in. And I was just thinking it'd be kind of cool on a week we already had a 9-year-old in Blings Express win, 2 Cuban Brothers U, who's 8 win. Let's try to cap the meet here with Lay That Pistol Down.
Oh, absolutely. He's a really cool horse, and he's been so consistent. And even his race 2 starts back behind Conquest Sandman, who just wired the field that day and came back on a really good streak after that. So really nice field in here, and I kind of feel the same way that you do about Bold Daddy. Looking at what power, I wish I would have put him a little bit further up, but ended up using him in 4th. He's been solid, too.
Can't use them all, but it is that kind of race where you might, I mean, realistically, you could go 5 or 6 deep there. You know, if you're playing the Rainbow, the late 5 or the late 4, and all those wagers will culminate and cash out in the meet finale.
And we have a middle pick 4 today, too, with 12 races.
Race number 5 is the midi pick 4 this afternoon. But anyway, race number 12 is a 20K maiden claimer. These are 3 and up fillies and mares at 7.5 furlongs. My opinion wasn't overwhelming. I looked around. Some of the shorter priced horses just didn't get my blood pumping there, although I respect the likes of the 7 Ledecky and some of the other horses like the 12 Violent Nature. But why not? I've been impressed with the work Mary Epler has done. She's really, her and her team have done a good job this meet, and can't be easy for a new outfit shipping down here during the primetime racing season, not really having a lay of the land. And I think she and her horses have well, they've given a good account of themselves, and off a trainer change, I'm going to try to shake things up with Patriot Storm in the nightcap.
I like it. I took a bit of a price as well, 8-1 on the morning line, Alexandra's Joy, but I'm just thinking she's going to trip out in here under Jose Ortiz. You did have Little Miss May scratch, who was going to be a big part of the pace, but there's still Play That Tone, who I thought might be a sneaky for Jose Garofalo, and Ledecky's got a lot of speed too. So I ended up going with Alexandra Joy, and once again, Morris Forever, the 14 comes in off the AE list.
She is indeed running for trainer Gustavo Delgado's, coming out of a fine showing in yesterday's Florida Derby when he had a win with Figuerella's Queen on the turf. And boy, Speed Franco, you got to like his toughness and durability.
So game. And Therapist came with a big turn of foot to run late and cut him down, but really nice run from both of those horses.
A big, bold move from Therapist, not as big and bold as Pete Aiello, who's charging down the turf course here, or at least the walking ring. He's got your Sunday, April Fool's Day scratches and changes coming up in just a few moments.
And Go Zephyr is pulling away.